Uh, Mr. Ortiz Luis Jr., how is our export sector? In this is the political season, so it is everyone's used to politicians either harping on the positive or harping on the negative, depending on their political stance. So, from someone in the know, how is your sector?
Well, you know that in 2012 we have a target of a growth of 9%.
Mm-hmm.
We missed it because we only got about 7%. No? And corollary to that, the Export Development Plan had a target of doubling up our total export, which is 60 billion, including services export in 2000 by 2016, making it 120 billion. Because we missed our target in 2012, obviously, to be able to double up, we have to raise the yearly targets for 2013, 14, and 15, because mathematically it's no longer possible. Our original target was 11, 11, 11.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to be able to double up now, it has got to be 14, 14, 14. And we had high hopes that we can meet that. Unfortunately, the numbers in the January export figure, which came out 2 weeks ago, was very disappointing. The electronic sector, which was improving, suddenly is negative 31 again. And bringing the total average export to only about 2.3%, thereabouts, and it makes it harder for us to believe that we can easily get even the original target of 11% for this year.
So, to what do you attribute our failure to meet the targets? Is the export sector sluggish? Is it a function of the exchange rate? The peso continues to grow strong, or is it a lack of support from government?
All of them.
All of them.
More importantly, I think, is the market. It looks like the European and the U.S. market have not really gone back to the usual, especially Europe. Is month to month we discover other problems. The U.S., I think, is more or less stabilizing. So our export actually in the recent months has been replaced. U.S. and Europe have been replaced basically by our Asian neighbors, and U.S., which used to have the biggest share in the pie, is barely number 3 now as the export destination.
Before we get into the political dimension of the economy, let's talk about the Moody's upgrade. That's probably the only silver lining that I've heard in the past couple of weeks. And that can be very significant or not very significant, depending on where you're standing. I guess for big business, any upgrade is significant. So what's your take on that?
Well, I guess the upgrade is a good thing. It leaves us, the government, some elbow rooms, because it would allow us to pay less for what we borrow, except for the fact that I think the local banks are awash with money, and there is already a policy in order to contain the influx of dollars here, is to borrow locally. So in the next 1 year, almost 100% will be borrowed locally, so it will have no effect for the next 1 year. But it's nice to know that if we do borrow, it will be cheaper interest. I don't know why a lot of people attribute things to the upgrade which has nothing to do with it. Collaterally, there can be an effect in the infrastructure. It can have an effect in the GDP. It can have an effect in FDIs, but it has no direct bearing actually, because what it is lower interest or from the banks, and even if that has got to that will be done when we borrow, I guess the others will have to wait for the other rating agencies before
They move.
they move.
Okay. If you want to take part in our discussions, and our topic this evening is politics and exports, the interplay between the two, you can text your questions or your reactions to globe number 0915-209-6012. That's globe number 0915-209-6012. If you want to text us right away. Kindly text at least your first name and where you're from so we can gauge our reach. Okay. Sir, all right. Anyway, we were discussing the... Okay. The Moody's upgrade is a good thing, no? But especially, I guess, because it's political season, some people may be stressing the positive. I mean, stretching the positive to an extent that may not be called for.
It's really positive. It's really positive. It gives you enough saving. It will eventually give the government savings. It will improve outlooks of others to the Philippines. But at the end of the day, our target is really foreign direct investment, and there's a long way to be able to do that because we're way behind.
Give us an idea of the local export sector. I know that a lot of the exporters are small and medium-scale enterprises. Now, of course, you have the big companies, you have the big firms, but more than 50% or 60% of exporters is still in that segment, the SME segment.
Oh, I would say that the SME in export is about 98%.
Oh.
Almost 99%, as a matter of fact. There's very few in the large, and these are mostly the multinationals. And while they account for a big amount of export, in total number of exporters or export products, they're very small.
Okay. This is where I guess business meets politics. So, did you feel that you got the necessary support of the past Congress to really give the industry, the local exporters, a shot in the arm? We know that the worldwide landscape is not too bright. The world is still recovering from that financial shock of 2008. We feel it in Europe. We still feel it in some parts of Asia. So that's, I suppose, where government comes in. Has it?
Well, I'm not going to isolate the present administration because we have never really gotten enough attention, except perhaps during the time of the President Ramos. He was the one who really declared export as the linchpin of our economic development. But I'll give you an example of, and you tell me whether we are getting support. The budget of DTI is about $3 billion. One of the smallest. And DTI is the one in charge of investment and export. And in DTI, there is a group that is called International Trade Group, which, if you're familiar with CITEM,
yes,
the different branches which are Bureau of Export Trade Promotion, the foreign postings. The budget is 500 million for that. And you know that in the government, rule of thumb, 80% of the budget is for salaries and administrative cost. So 100 billion is left to support export.
Yes.
And the export is trillions. Where is the inequity? And then we expect export to grow this much, or to develop this much, or to develop new products. Think about in terms of priorities. what is the budget of
So
the...
you feel you're not being given the
Well,
priority
I
you
guess
deserve?
you reap what you plant.
Mhm.
And I guess d- uh, it's the feeling is that other sector have priorities. Well, education, of course, the agriculture, military, and even the CCT. CCT is what, 40 billion. Can you imagine if 2 billion of that is given to export promotion? How much?
I
How many
understand there should
employments
be
we can create?
funding for SMEs, no? Does this go to what, direct loans or some sort of, how is the industry supported by way of this funding?
Well, I mean, they are, but practically nothing. Recently, the president is good enough to give 700 million to DTI as additional budget for common service facilities of SMEs in the region. That's a good thing. We've never had that kind before. But even that is dropped in the bucket of the mandate that the export community or the trade community is supposed to do. It's like it's probably the more important department that will generate trade and that will generate employment. Yet it has no bullets. It marches with no weapons.
Where has the current Congress, the current senators, the current congressmen, failed to meet your expectations in as far as giving much needed support to local exporters?
Well, there are nothing that is coming out for them, for exporters.
Nothing.
Nothing, practically nothing. There was one that came out, the Magna Carta. That's not for exporter, but we are trying to push that at least in implementing rules for the small and medium be such that so that the law can be potent, but it's not. Again, we wish that they will be at least the oversight committee will look into why it's not working again.
Mhm. Okay, I'll ask you to rate the current Congress as far as the exporters are concerned, but you'll answer that later. General assignment will be right back after a few messages. Don't go away.